Today we are making naan bread, so let's get to it. Welcome back to Cooking with Kayla D. I'm Kayla and this is my husband Randy. My disclaimer. If you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, and remember to hit that notification bell so you get all our latest episodes as they release. Ingredients. This will make 4 naan bread. You need 2 teaspoons of yeast or 1 packet of active dry, 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1/3 cup of warm water at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 1/3 cup of warm milk at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 1.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. The first thing you're going to do is get yourself out a small to medium mixing bowl for your wet ingredients. The first thing we're going to do is put our sugar in there. Once you have your sugar in there, you're going to go ahead and put your warm water, your warm milk, and your yeast all in that bowl. So there goes my packet of active dry yeast. Here goes my warm water at 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And then again, my warm milk as well. We want to whisk this well to get that all well combined. Once you have it combined, you'll want to cover this and you want to put it in a warm place for 5 to 10 minutes so we can see if the yeast is active. And while that's happening, we'll go ahead and finish by getting a large mixing bowl out. We will pour our flour directly into a sifter and sift our flour and our salt together. I always go ahead and add my salt right on the top there. And I always put a little extra because I do use pink Himalayan sea salt and it doesn't always all go through the sifter. So I always put just like a 1/4 teaspoon more than what it calls for. And as you see, as I sift, I'll still have a bunch of salt here left in my sifter. But then you can also see that there's plenty that got into the bowl. And after that, I'll go ahead and mix those ingredients together. Once I have the salt combined with the flour, then we'll go ahead and check on our yeast water mixture and see how that is doing. So you want to go ahead and get that out. It's been about 10 minutes now. Uncover that. And you should have bubbles or a foamy substance on the top of yours. And as you can see, mine is like real foamy and cakey looking. That means our yeast is good and we are ready to go. So I just put a little circle, like a little well in the middle of my bowl, and I just dump those wet ingredients right into the center of my mixing bowl. This is a very easy recipe. You will not be hardly kneading this at all. Naan is very easy to make. Once you have your ingredients in there, you're going to gently start to mix it with a spoon or a cooking utensil. I'm using a little cooking spatula here. And you only want to do it halfway. You don't want to do it all the way. You just want to mix some of that wet in with the flour slightly. As you can see here, my flour still has all these dry spots. This is when we're going to go ahead and add in that little bit of olive oil. Now that we have the olive oil in there, we're going to go ahead and continue to mix it now. And now you just want to mix this until it becomes evenly combined into a sticky substance. When you have that all together and it's all sticky and all combined, then your dough is about ready to go ahead and cover and set to the side. Still have a little bit of dry spots on the side of my bowl, so I'm going to go ahead and get that all up. Now as you can see, my dough is pretty sticky. No hands needed for this. This is the great part about naan. You can also do it this way for fry bread. So now that I have my ball there, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I ball it up just like you would a bread dough. Make sure it's sticky enough, not too wet, not too dry, it's just sticky. I cover that and put that in a warm place for 30 minutes to an hour. After about 30 minutes to an hour and it's doubled in size, I go ahead and uncover it and pull it away from the sides of my bowl and get it ready to dump out. You want to dump it out onto a floured surface. So I have me a little sheet here I got at Walmart, and it is for pastries and baking. I'm going to go ahead and put my flour on there. Once you have your flour on there and you have it spread out pretty good where your dough won't stick, then you can go ahead, remove your dough from the bowl and place it onto here. This part we will have to knead a little bit, but not for too long. It should only take you about 6 to 10 fold over and kneading like this, and about 3 minutes total. That's it. Once you have all the stickiness out of it and you've got some flour that it's absorbed and got in there, and you've got your bread together in a roll just like you would a loaf of bread, then you are ready to go on to the next step. And what we're going to do is take a dough cutter, and we're going to cut this into 4 pieces because we are making 4 naan breads. So you just cut it into 4 by cutting it in half, and then turning your cutter and cutting it in half again to make 4 equal parts. You go ahead and put some flour on those ends that I cut and roll these into balls just to set them aside so they don't end up sticking to my mat, and that way they also don't dry out, and we can go ahead and roll these out. So just continue to do this until you have all 4 rolled into a ball. Now you get a rolling pin out, make sure you put your flour on it, and we're going to go ahead and do this kind of like you would a tortilla, or you're making cinnamon rolls. Oh, I need to get more flour on that. Didn't flour it up well enough. Anyhow, we're going to go ahead and continue on here. You want to go ahead and roll these out. You can either do them oblong shaped, or you can do them in a round circle. It is entirely up to you. For this one, I am going to make it oblong. That way you can see what it looks like that way. I prefer them actually to be round. I find that they're a little bit thicker and fluffier in the middle. That way you still get that crispy outside, but you still have some soft, fluffy bread on the inside. But as you can see, that's how it is oblong. I would say that it's about 8 inches, 8 to 10 inches is what you're looking for. And then you want to go ahead and get that set to the side so you can start working on your other dough. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and use the lid that I covered my bowl with to rise the dough. Sprinkle some flour on it. You could do this with a baking sheet as well. You want to flour the surface, and you want to stick your dough over the top of it like that. You don't want it to hang off the edges. Like me, I had to kind of crunch it in there to get it to fit. I just didn't want to dirty up any more dishes. Then sprinkle some more flour on top, and that'll keep the dough from sticking because we're going to be putting these round doughs right on top of that. So these one I'm going to do in a circular motion, and I'm going to use my little rings that I have here on my mat to guide me and do a nice little circle. And it's going to be about the size of a corn tortilla. So like when you buy your corn tortillas at the store, then that is about the size of the circle that I am going to be making. I forgot to look to see what number it was on the mat, but yeah, that's what we're going to do, as you can see. And as you finish all the rest of them, then we'll go ahead and get to cooking these. I'm doing it in a cast iron skillet because that's what you're supposed to use, and you're not supposed to put any oil or anything in this. And you do want it on a very low heat, low to low medium. You don't want it any higher than that. You want to go ahead and just lay the dough in there until it starts to brown and shrink up around the edges. Once it does, then you'll go ahead and flip it and cook it for an additional 2 minutes. The first one took me about, I would say, 4 minutes, and then I flipped it and cooked it for 2. After that, it was only about 2 minutes on each side, if that. I ended up having to turn my cast iron skillet down a little bit, but it did turn out really well. I guess you could do this in a non-stick skillet. I would just turn your temperature down a little bit more and go to a really low heat on this, and just keep an eye on it. Once you have it dark on one side, again, you'll flip it. One side's going to be dark like this all the way around. The other side's going to have spotted bubbles. This side where you have all your darkness all the way across, that is going to be the bottom of your naan bread. And now for the rest of the ingredients for our topping. I have a bunch of parsley, 4 to 6 tablespoons of olive oil. You can add salt, optional to taste, and you can also add red chili flake, optional for heat. Of course, I just did the parsley and the olive oil because that is the traditional way. So here I went out and I got my mini food processor out. You're going to need a food processor or a blender for this, or unless you're an excellent chopper, then you can go ahead and chop up your parsley. Went ahead and got me a bunch of parsley. You can go ahead and put stems in this. If you stems, it's not going to hurt anything because you are just processing it up. But I went ahead and tried to keep as many stems out of it as I possibly could. But there you go. You just want to put some parsley into your processor. Try to get the leaves if you can. I just made sure to try to pick out any big stems that I saw. But if they're in there, it's okay. They'll blend up anyway. It all tastes the same. Then you want to go ahead and add in your olive oil. I started with just putting a couple of tablespoons into my food processor. That's going to help this to blend up a lot easier. And then once I was done processing, I added a little bit more of that olive oil. As you can see here, I just pulsed it a few times on a low to low medium just to make sure that I got the parsley chopped up pretty good. And now I'll take the lid off so you can see exactly what it looks like. It did chop up really well, so you can see it's nice and fine. I'm going to go ahead and put it into a little ramekin bowl. That way I can just brush it right on to our bread. I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. And that's why I said to use 4 to 6 tablespoons, because you do want a little bit of olive oil in there so that it spreads easier across the bread. For us personally, we like a little salt and everything, so we probably would have enjoyed the bread with some more salt or salt mixed into the topping, but nevertheless, we went ahead and ate it just like this, and it was really good. So you go ahead and just take a brush, or even you could use a butter knife or a spoon, and then you're just going to go ahead and spread this over the top of the naan bread. Now, if you don't want to use the naan bread and eat it like that, you could also use naan bread as a pizza crust. You cook it the same way, and once it's done cooking, then you put all your sauces and toppings on it and put it in the oven for like 10 minutes, and boom, you've got pizza. But look at how fluffy that is in the inside. And that's why I enjoy the round one a lot better. You still get a nice crust, but it's really soft and fluffy and chewy. And it's absolutely delicious. We're going to try this with gluten-free flour one time and see how it turns out. Wow, look at that. It's absolutely delicious. We paired ours with some delicious Armenian meatball soup. And if you tune in on Monday, you will get that recipe because we are making it, and here is a sneak peek. So there you have it, delicious naan bread, and come back on Monday for that Armenian meatball soup. It pairs well together. It was absolutely a delicious meal, and we were excited to try something new. Stay tuned to the end for more photographs of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter toward them. Colossians 3:19.
Here we have some beautiful photos of the sunrise here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We love sharing all these photos with you. No matter where we are, we always like to share God's beauty. And it was a beautiful sunrise indeed. All the birds were out. It was just a wonderful morning. We thank you for being here on Cooking with Kayla D. We ask that if you haven't done so, please like, subscribe, and share our channel. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed, you can click the icon here on the left. And for more delicious recipes, the icon here on the right. And remember to come back on Monday for that delicious Armenian meatball soup recipe. It is simple, easy, and your family will think you're a wonderful gourmet chef. And as always, stay in that kitchen and keep on cooking. God bless. Ma salamati.